Diabetes fears are so real that they are scary real. There's the fear of hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar that can happen to you at any point of the day, even while you are asleep at night, which used to be a frequent thing for me, by the way. I remember waking up to either my mom or my kid's father at the time with a cup to my mouth with juice in it, just pouring it in my mouth. It was just so terrifying to me that they had to do that so many times. I used to be in such a panic mode about it that what I had started doing was I would have a whole bunch of M&Ms. It would be the M&Ms peanuts because that was my favorite at the time. So I would eat a whole bunch of that, or I would have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or a bowl of cereal, something that had sugar in it before bed, because I had this fear that that would happen again while I would be asleep and that I would just never wake up, and many a times when I would do that, I would actually wake up to my blood sugar being extremely high because I overate the amount of, sugar intake that caused me to have hyperglycemia in the morning, which is another fear, having the hyperglycemia. I have frequent constant hyperglycemia to the point where, I started to have body infections and things on my body because of my blood sugar levels constantly running high. I used to have frequent yeast infections because of high blood sugar levels. I used to have blurry vision. It was like I was seeing floaters. And I had this fear that I would go blind and just wouldn't be able to see ever again. Having my blood sugars constantly run high. I had diabetes neuropathy. I would feel that burning, tingling, pins and needles sensation at the bottom of my feet. And it would just be so painful to put on socks. I would have my sneakers on and I would still feel it while walking. And it was just so painful. Even trying to sleep at night, I could still feel that pins and burning, tingling sensation at the bottom of my feet. And I started thinking, am I going to lose my legs? Or I just didn't want that to happen. It was just so scary thinking about all of these things that was going on. And I remember when I used to work in a nursing home and I took care of a couple of patients that had diabetes and their legs were amputated. Their legs were taken off. There's one person I took care of, both of her legs was gone. Another person, they only had one leg gone, but they both had the very same reason as to why their legs were gone. They told me that their blood sugar levels were constantly running high. They didn't have good diabetes management. They ended up getting gangrene in their legs, getting these serious infections that their leg had to be cut off so that it wouldn't reach the rest of their body. And that's scary. That is just so scary, And then there's the fear of injections, having to utilize needles every single day. I didn't have that fear, but I know people who did, and they had to get beyond that in order to be able to take their insulin. There's also the fear of taking pharmaceutical medications for the rest of your life. That was another fear of mine because I would think to myself, well, I don't want to have to take this for the rest of my life. I was never fond of taking that to begin with because the pharmaceutical medications was just a Band-Aid. It wasn't fixing anything. It was just helping me to get by every single day. It wasn't getting rid of the diabetes. It wasn't making my diabetes better. It was just a Band-Aid. And if you look at the labels on all of these pharmaceutical medications, they have a list galore of all of the side effects that come with it. And, it's it's to the point where you find yourself just in this roller coaster of fear behind fear after fear. And you start to be in panic mode, which is not good for your health. You start to go through all of these emotions. You're on a roller coaster ride of emotions. And it's not a good feeling. It's not. And if you've been listening to me this far, you've heard me say multiple times, used to. And the reason I kept saying used to is because I don't deal with these things anymore. I don't. I'm literally almost completely off of my diabetes medication. And if you're someone who is going through these fears, or someone who is struggling with your diabetes management, whether you have complications or have any of the fears that I've mentioned, or even some fears that I didn't mention, please reach out to find out how I can help you. Something to think about.